Rev up your engines!
You know what's happening with Lucid, the very expensive electric car manufacturer that the Arabs own a large percent of. They just put some more billion something into it to try to keep the thing floating up. Well, nowhere near producing the cars that they claim they're going to. They set a new record for the last quarter. They sold 1,900 cars. Whoop-de-doo. That isn't diddly squat. Last year, they twice reduced what they thought they were going to, how many cars they were going to build. We're going to build these many cars, and if they don't, the stock market hits them. Now they reduced it from 20,000 they're going to produce, right, to 7,000. This is for the whole year. And Tesla, of course, has lowered the price of their cars. And the problem with these Lucids are, they're so inexpensive. I don't know who they think are going to buy these things. I guess the Arabs think they're all oil millionaires like they are and don't care about buying an expensive car like that. For example, their Air Dream starts at $169,000. But they have cheaper models that start at only $89,000. That's still a lot of money. And if you follow the stock market, the Lucid stock is one of the highest, shortest stocks out there, meaning people are betting that stock's going to tank even further because of production problems. They're super expensive cars, and with the recession coming, who's going to be buying these super expensive electric cars that have unproven technology to begin with? And of course, now the short-term interest rates are going high, which makes the monthly payment of these expensive cars even higher. That's what's happening with Lucid. Doesn't look like the greatest news in the world. I guess the Arabs have an awful lot of money. They keep throwing money into it. We'll throw some more money into it. What the heck? They're getting it by pulling oil out of the ground. It's not like they worked hard for the stuff. It's just sitting there in their land, right? Making some dumb investments? Well, who knows? Read the other day that the Taliban is making a upper-level sports car, and they're making them in Afghanistan. I mean, the world's a strange place. Things are getting stranger all the time, but if you're smart, don't put your money into any of these schemes because it wouldn't be a wise decision in the long run. I know cars I've been working on for 54 years. A lot of this stuff, these people with their fantasy of rich cars, there's so many people who are going to buy rich cars, and that's it. And even then, they want somewhat proven technology. Like Rolls-Royce had a record year last year. But what does that mean? That means they sold a whopping 9,000 cars. It does not affect most people. It does not affect the majority of us normal people. We're not going to go buy Rolls-Royce. And same thing with Lucid. Normal people, they're not going to be buying these cars anyways. They're going for an upper echelon market. People at the upper echelon, they're very picky about what they're spending their money on, so we'll see what happens further down the line if Lucid stock keeps going, if the company goes out, or whether they have a massive return and they become one of the wealthiest car manufacturers in the world, which I kind of doubt. Stackper says, should I buy an Isuzu car? Are Isuzus good? What Isuzu car should I buy? Well, I wouldn't buy any of them if I lived in the United States. The companies come to the United States before, and they kind of failed all the time. The only real decent thing they ever sold here was the Isuzu Trooper, and it was the trucky little, turned into kind of an SUV thing, but they had transmission problems. Their V6 engines would burn out when they'd get 100,000 miles. They weren't great cars. It's such a competitive world out there when it comes to vehicles. Why buy something that it's not great? And some of them were terrible. Honda, their original little trucky SUV was just to rebadge the Isuzu, right? But now Honda makes their own. That was just a stopgap measure. I wouldn't buy one. Now, I mean, if you live in some weird island in the Caribbean or some country where there's a whole bunch of them and people know how to work on them, people do that. For example, on the British Virgin Islands, a lot of people drove those Suzukis, little Samurais, little Suzuki Jeeps, because they had parts for them. Guys knew how to work on them. It was a small island. They didn't drive far, and that was perfectly fine. But Suzuki failed in the United States. They pulled out. Their cars were piles of crap, and their little Jeeps were too small for the type of Jeeps that Americans wanted, and they were really a massive failure. And Isuzu was kind of the same way. I wouldn't buy one in the United States. Mr. Bob says, what do you think of these universal replacement CV boots for the axles that are split for easy installation? Should they be considered a temporary fix? Yes, and let me tell you something. I thought ages ago, we're talking 30, 40 years ago, well, a good idea, you don't have to take all this crap apart, you can split it and put it on, but no, they're generally garbage. To begin with, rubber of one piece is going to flex a lot better and last longer. These things, they're split in half. You got to fill them with grease to begin with, because you got to have the grease in there, right? And then you got to fit them over and then glue and clamp them together. I even saw some that had zippers. Every time you turn your wheel, that boot is flexed to the max. You got one that was made split, zipped, glued together. They rip and crack and break. It's a stupid idea. Now, back in the day, some guys would do it as a temporary fix because back in the day, you go back 30 years ago, there wasn't much of an aftermarket, so a brand new axle assembly would cost you $800. Today, a lot of places for $59, $60. You get a new axle, including new boots and everything. So you just take the old one and throw it away and put a new one on. Doesn't make sense even trying to fix the stupid things. You're better off just replacing the whole thing than you are attempting to put new boots on. Not cost effective, right? And those split ones, like I said, then you turn, eventually they split, they crack. I tried a few of them decades ago, and they all broke relatively quickly, and I never did it again. I thought, well, it sounded like a good idea, but it didn't work out in practice in the real world. Larry Bird 26 says, my trunk won't open. I got a 2015 Volvo S60. I can't open it from the outside using the button in the car or the key fob. It'll only open when I pull the lever in the trunk. What could be wrong? Since your key fob doesn't work and the inside, obviously the stupid motor in the back is broken. Those things are very expensive. Price one from Volvo. You'll probably say, well, I'm not going to take it all apart, spend all that money. Be happy you still got the latch. Some of them don't have the latch you can pull to open, and then you're screwed, right? In your case, the latch works. Live with it unless you want to spend all that money buying the motor, taking it apart, and putting another one in. That's up to you. Me, I'd say, hey, the latch works. Be happy that the latch works. I mean, I like a trunk that you stick the key in, you turn it, it pops open. Although I do have to say, my wife's Lexus, it's 22 years old. It's got the button you push, and it still works. Because it's not a Volvo, it's a Lexus. But if it ever did break, I would just then use the key. I wouldn't bother going to all the trouble of looking for the part for that and spending a fortune. Ilyansky says, I got an Avensis 2005 1.6. When I touch the throttle, I need about half a second to rise up. Then when I release it, it takes about half a second for it to die down. What should I do? It runs okay. It's got this delay, and there's no check engine light. All right, what you want to do, and this will probably fix it, is do my video. Make your car run better with a little spray cleaner, Scotty. You can clean the throttle with throttle spray cleaner. You can clean the mass airflow sensor with mass airflow sensor cleaner. It will probably fix it. Now, if it doesn't fix it, then odds are you got a bad throttle position sensor, and it's not giving the data fast enough. Or if you have an electronic throttle, it could be that throttle electric motor is starting to wear out. But normally, it just needs cleaning. The carbon gets on it and then it sticks a little, and that spray cleaner will fix it right off the bat. It's very easy to do. Watch the video. You can do it in 15 minutes or so, and the bottle's good enough to do 8 or 10 cars, so you can just do it every once a year or something. It'll keep all your cars going that way. The Reaper 9292 says, I have a whining noise while I'm under 1,500 RPMs. I got a 2011 Mazda 3 with 122,000 miles. It runs and shifts good, but once it shifts into overdrive and drops below 1,500 RPMs, it makes a whining noise until he gives it gas to get it back at 2,000 RPM plus, and it stops. I took it to 2 shops, spent $500, and it still does. All right. Well, I recently fixed one like that. It was internal wear in the transmission. So you might think, oh my God, I'm going to have to take the transmission apart and rebuild it. No, I just got my vacuum pump and I sucked out 12 ounces of the fluid. Then I put 12 ounces of automatic transmission rejuvenator on. There's a lot of them out there that work perfectly fine. Go to the auto parts store, ask them, what's the best transmission cleaner you got? There's a bunch of them out there. They all got the same ingredients. Put it in, drive it 250, 300 miles. You'll probably find the whining noise goes away. Now, if it doesn't go away, that means that when you're in overdrive at that low RPM, it's just worn a little bit, so at the lower RPMs it whines, and then higher it doesn't whine anymore, and live with it. But I fixed one exactly like that just by taking out 10, 12 ounces, whatever's in the bottle. Buy the bottle first, and it'll tell you how many ounces. Suck that many ounces out, pour the new one in, drive it 250, 300. A lot of times it'll get rid of the whining noises. They get gummed up and clean them off, and then it stops whining. The whining is often the shaft spinning around on a seal. F-Wag says, can I use a head gasket sealer? I got a 2011 Subaru Forester, 120,000 miles, has a head gasket leak. They have to pull the boxer engine and replace it, and I've got quotes of what the value of the car is. I don't want to do that. Can I put head gasket sealer and make it last another 5 or 10,000 miles, like Bars Leak or Steel Seal? I would only try, now it's a 2011, the Bars leak. The steel seal was fine for the older cars. They used the old green antifreeze. The new long life antifreeze has a completely different formula, and the steel seal doesn't work in it unless you ran your engine on pure water, and you can't do that for that long. It will cavitation and it'll eat up the aluminum stuff. So buy that like $30 bottle of the bars leak and put it in. I've seen it work pretty good. It could easily work. I've seen it work for a while. Now, nothing lasts forever, but depending on where the leak is, let's say it's an external leak where it's leaking on the outside of the engine, it works best on those. The internal ones between the piston rings and the water jackets in the middle of the engine, often the sealers hardly last at all because you're right where the main compression is, and it'll keep blowing it out. But if it's sealing between the water and the outside of the engine, it'll often last quite some time, sometimes even permanently. So what the heck? Don't use the steel seal. Only use the bars leak, the one that says it's suitable for all types of coolants. And I've had people have pretty good luck with it. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.